This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Ferris and Larry Latham, the future Moondog Spot, would team as the Blonde Bombers, and a team name that was used before and since by different combinations through the different territories. But their signature moment was in 1979, and this has become a tape trading legend. It's the Tupelo concession stand brawl against Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. I guess it was the repeat of this with Onita that actually went viral before that was a thing with tape traders. And,
was it Onita or was it, God damn, was it, cause it was with Ricky Morton and those guys, and they took the mustard jar and bashed it over his head, and the shard of glass went in his ear.
I thought that one was Ricky Morton and Eddie Gilbert on one side. And Masafucci maybe, and
Masafucci, yeah.
Yeah. And Onita on the other, but that one is the tape trading legend, but I think this predated it actually.
It did. Yeah. This was the concession stand brawl. Tupelo tried to be recreated all over the country.
Well, and how about this? Even years later, you know, I mean, when we get into the Attitude Era, you guys were doing all kinds of silly stuff like this with spots, with concessions and tables and things like that. But you've even done the grocery store brawl, which I think maybe Big Japan did first, but you guys did more famously with Stone Cold and Booker T. And I mean, lots of craziness. And I think, you know, as he would describe, the Fullers had raided Jerry Jarrett's Memphis territory for most of its talent. And with very few players left, the Blonde Bombers and Lawler and Dundee really needed to tear the house down. And I think they probably accomplished it, because this had to be something that everybody in wrestling was talking about, because it was something that hadn't been done before. Right?
Yeah, it was. And, you know, I think that as much fun as I'm not a big fan of Memphis wrestling and what have you. Look, Jerry Lawler and I were talking about it the other day, and Jerry's celebrating his 50th or 60th year in wrestling. Let's go maybe his 70th year in wrestling, maybe 80. I don't know.
No, seriously, we should plug it. On the 26th, they're actually doing a get together in Jacksonville, Tennessee. There's going to be a whole lot of Southern wrestling legends there, but this could be one of the largest crowds to attend a Jackson wrestling event in a long time. They've got a huge stadium for this, so you can still be safe and all that jazz. At least that's what we hear, but it's going down September 26th. It's the 50th anniversary of the King, and your old pal Jim Ross will be there, and Tracy Smothers, and I think the Rock and Roll Express, and a lot of the old classics. So if Alabama wasn't kicking off that day, Bruce, I'd be there. But you know, as you know, that's a state holiday here. I've got to attend to those affairs.
Yeah, well, you know, but Lawler, look, when people talk about Memphis, you talk about the King, Jerry Lawler, and the fact that Lex Luger got in wrestling because he was playing football and walking around in downtown Memphis, Tennessee, and people saw he was big and jacked up, thought he was a wrestler, and said, "Hey, are you wrestling Jerry the King Lawler?" And he thought he was a big star being a football player, but then realized that to get noticed and for people to know who the hell you are, you don't need to be wearing a helmet, and that the wrestlers were the people that were famous in Luger's eyes. And that was one of the reasons that Lex got in the business, was because of Jerry the King Lawler. And Lawler, man, you sit there and guys talk about, Hogan wasn't a great worker. This guy wasn't a great worker. They drew money. Lawler was a great worker because he always drew money. And that's what the mark of a great worker is, folks. Not a moveset, not how many high spots they do in a match. Can they tell a story and draw money?
Can they make people care and buy tickets?
Ding, ding, motherfucking ding.
Well, of course, these days, nobody's buying tickets, but you know, last year, 6 months ago, after a bloody battle that involves Ferris and Latham cheating at every turn, the Blonde Bombers win the match here, this Tupelo concession brawl, and they win the tag titles as well. But Dundee and Lawler weren't finished and took the fight to the concession stand area. And Lance Russell, as you know, would follow with the cameramen and continue to call the action pretty masterfully. They used mops and pans and boxes and stools and a table and mustard. And by the way, this is 1979, and the event wound up being so hot that it actually turned around Jerry Jarrett's territory. So while their talent may have been rated, this was such a spectacle that people started to vote with their dollars for the Jarrett team. It's pretty remarkable when one match can sort of turn around a territory, right?
And one guy, and that one guy being Jerry Lawler. But yes, and being able to go out and grab people's attention with someone that had been there a long time, with Lawler at that point, probably 6 years.
Right.
And, yes, it was a hell of a deal, but that was an opportunity for old Wayne Ferris and Larry to get out there and make a name for themselves and get people talking.
We should mention that even Honky would tell you it's not the first hardcore match in history, but it is one of the earliest hardcore moments that people can still remember and talk about today. It was such a big deal that last year, on the 30-year anniversary, TV stations in Tupelo did a news story celebrating the anniversary. And I think Lawler and Dundee both received keys to the city honoring it. How crazy is that? That they're giving keys to the city for a wrestling match that's 30 years old. I don't know that that's going to happen 30 years from now. Is that just a sign of what pro wrestling meant to entertainment at the time, or how big it was to the area? Or, I mean, what a big deal.
It speaks to the importance in the local area and what it meant. Wrestling and wrestlers in the small territories and in the towns, you didn't have 500 or 1,000 television stations and the internet to watch whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. You had 3 stations. 3, folks. Then when UHF came in, sometimes you had 5, maybe if you're really lucky, 6. And wrestling was a mainstay, and the guys lived in the towns and they lived in the area, so they were local celebrities that you saw on TV. You couldn't go see Roy Rogers every Monday night at the Memphis Coliseum.
Right.
But you could see Jerry Lawler on TV and Wayne Ferris on TV on Saturday, and then go to the Coliseum and see him live and in living color in person.
We should mention Honky has said in interviews that he didn't think Jerry Lawler was particularly good to him during his time in Memphis. And remember, Lawler has quite a bit of stroke here. He's making huge money, has influence, getting some kickbacks from the office, part of the ownership group, the whole deal. And Honky would say he would be booked twice a week, and it shows that were huge draws. But he couldn't ride with the other wrestlers there because they thought he was office. And well, after Tupelo, Ferris said Lawler showed him much more professional courtesy. And I guess that's probably natural, right? On the one hand, you don't really want to show favoritism or have the perception be that you're favoring one guy over another. But once that guy becomes part of the team that's really drawing, well, now they've proven their worth, huh?
Yeah. Now I really don't give a shit what you think as long as you're drawing money.
Right.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.